Hi, everybody. I'm Johanna Hynes, and I'm here with my two fellow Midwest reps, Betty Redmond and John Tewsley. And we are here to recommend some of the best of independent fiction and poetry from our IPS distributed publishers. That's PGW, IPS, and Two Rivers. We will have two other sessions concentrating on nonfiction and gift books and another one on kids titles. So be sure to check out those presentations in the other rep pick sessions. The first two books I want to bring to your attention are from last year's winners of the Voice of the Heartland Award, $2 Radio. One is a poetry collection and the other is a novel. The novel is called I Will Die in a Foreign Land by Kalini Pickart, and we've been describing it as the English patient set in Ukraine in November 2013. This novel follows four individuals over the course of that volatile Ukrainian winter as their lives are forever changed by a protest in Kiev. It has all manner of praise and I believe is an Indie Next pick for November. It is $25 and will be shipping in October. The second is a collection of poetry called 808s and Other Worlds, and some of you may pick up the riff on Kanye West's 808s and Heartbreak. These are deeply personal essays and poems with a distinctive voice confronting media's representation of Black masculinity. It's $16 and it's out now, and I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite collections of poetry for the year. The next title is a really interesting collection from Red Hen Press, and it's called New Moons. This is an extraordinary one-volume anthology of contemporary American Muslim voices. Kazim Ali collected and edited this, and he's a milkweed author. And he has collected multiple genres of poetry, fiction, essay, memoir, political, and cultural writing. This will fit in your shelf next to the Norton anthology Joy Harjo did for Native American writing last year. This one has a pub date of November 16th, and it is $21.95. And today, as we are editing this, or I should say filming this, it's the release date for Muriel Barbery's first new non-fantasy novel since The Elegance of the Hedgehog, A Single Rose. And for those of you who are fans, you are in for a treat. Very quickly, it's the middle-aged woman who travels to Japan to hear her father's will read, and she takes us on a spiritual journey around the country. The prose is gorgeous and insightful, and I think it's a deeply moving book. Your customers will love this one. It's $22, and as I said, it just published today. And then my favorite book that I've read all year, and I know that John and Betty are also fans, are Small Things Like These from Claire Keegan. And it's one that everybody who's read this has just fallen in love with it. It's a slender little novel set at Christmas time, and it tells the tale of a quiet man in Cork in the 60s. He's confronted the exploitation of young women at the local convent, and he is forced to make a choice that will affect his family and others. Colm Twabian says it's an original and canonical presence in Irish fiction, and I think it's a remarkable portrait of love and family. And I don't know if either of you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I would just like to say that this was a really special treat to read. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's not what you would usually expect at the holiday season, but it gives you that warm inside feeling of care for your fellow man at this time of season. So I really enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah.
And what I was most impressed me was the love in-house at Grove for this. I've never seen so many of their editors and marketing folks all falling over themselves with this book. So that's certainly a great sign.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And lastly, from Grove, from me, we have Rabi Almadeen's Wrong End of a Telescope. And I've loved Robbie's novels for years. We published him when I was at Norton, and he, I think, had a couple at Knopf, but he's really hit his groove with Grove editor Elizabeth Schmidt. You'll remember A Necessary Woman, which was a huge hit for him and for us. And this story is a novel that braids three lives: a Syrian migrant family that's arrived in Lesbos, and then an Arab American trans woman, Mina, who's doing medical work with refugees on that island, and the writer himself, who's struggling to convey their stories. Robbie actually worked on this island, and so there's really a sense of autobiography to this tale, unlike some of his others. This has received such great critical praise. I think we've had 3-starred reviews so far, and I think this is going to be a real sleeper for them on the list. And that is out now, and it is $27. And I think we're over to you, Betty.
Thanks, Johanna. I'm going to start off with Jane's Country Year, which is from a lovely little press based in Scotland, Handheld Classics. And the publisher there is bringing back into print many early turn of the century pieces of fiction for contemporary readers. And this one, Jane's Country Year, is a completely charming book. It features 33 colored woodcuts, and it's about a city girl who finds herself in the countryside. This is set during World War II and just after, and it's one of those rare gems that's suitable for adults, teens, and middle grade readers. It's not just for Anglophiles, but for anyone who wants to escape the hustle and bustle stresses of daily or holiday life. And then The River Capture is from Irish author Mary Costello. And it's been a few years since we've heard from Mary Costello. She's a novelist and short story writer who's garnered a lot of awards abroad, but is still gaining notoriety here in the US. Her work will have appeal to fans of her fellow countrywomen like Anne Enright, Claire Keegan, who Johanna just mentioned, and even Maeve Binchy. She's also been compared to James Joyce. So it's a wonderful, luminous, elegant writing that also works on many layers in terms of meaning and metaphor. So The River Capture is Costello's latest novel. It's already received a starred Kirkus review here and shortlisted for the Irish Book Award. Early in the book, she actually makes a reference to the work of the German forester that we're all familiar with, Peter Wohlleben, who wrote Hidden Life of Trees. And then there's a lot of humorous, I'd like to say a generous dollop of quotes from James Joyce throughout. But ultimately, it's a story of every life, about our connections to our family and the land. And then Beneficence. This is in trade paperback now. Y'all may remember that I talked about this. This was one of my rep picks last year when it was out in cover. But this is a book that I think is for all time. Now that it's in trade paperback, I think it's great. It'll be great to use as a give as a stocking stuffer or to book groups. So it's as I said last year, the story of beneficence is in fact the definition of the word itself. It is very life-affirming, restorative, and it is set in 1938, and the story carries through to 1965, and told by different chapters are told from the point of view of the father, wife, or mother, and daughter of this family. Truly a wonderful story. I would compare the writing to Wendell Berry, Willa Cather, Richard Ford, and I just think this is a book that will be forever an evergreen. And then The Devil's Treasure. I kind of feel like I'm selling McSweeney's again when I'm talking about this package. This is a remarkable book from Mary Gateskill, and it features 9 collages and is color-coded in the gutter, in the spine of the book, to help readers distinguish between the 4 different novels or sections, if you will. There is the story itself, The Devil's Treasure. There's a linked short story, and then there's Gateskill's notes that are about this story, but also about her life and criticism, and she gives us insight to other pieces of her writing. So this is really, it'll be an incredibly beautiful, well-produced package and a real mind bender to try to get through all of those things and points of view coming together. And then I wanted to give a brief shout out to Chiltern Publishing, lovely gift books. Many of you have already been selling these titles, but this is a great time to really cook with them, I believe. In the notes, you'll see a link up for the Chiltern Complete catalog, and that includes their notebook books and their gift sets. And what we have here are just a few of the new titles that are coming out this fall. Also in the markup notes are details about the 3% discount on all backlist titles. So when you go to the Chiltern catalog, take a look at your sales, because every account that I know has been selling 1s and 2s and 3s and 5s of these beautifully jacketed classic stories. And you can get an extra 3% off, and that offer's good through the end of November. John, I believe it's over to you now.
Yeah, thanks, Betty. I do have a physical copy of the book here, Great Expectations from Chiltern, with the silver lining. It's just extraordinary. I keep this by my bedside and dip into it every night. For me, I've got 3 titles real quick. The first being Damon Galgut's The Promise from Europa. So this has been shortlisted for the Booker Prize. And it's gotten stunning star reviews from P.W. Kirkus, blurbs from Claire Massol and James Wood. A reprint is in the works, so please back order now with that +3 promo code, because this came out in June. And the Booker announcement is November 3rd. This is the first time I've read Galgut, but I've been simply blown away. The story tackles racial strife and economic strife in South Africa throughout the second half of the 20th century. It's a family story, one torn apart from a singular promise that cannot be fulfilled. Grove has won the Booker the last 2 years with Shuggie Bain and Girl Woman Other, and I'm hoping Europa gets the nod here. And also, this is Galgut's 3rd Booker nomination, so let's hope 3 is the magic number.
Fingers crossed.
Another great book from Europa, and I wore this shirt in honor of my favorite book over the last year or so. This is Cathedral. Like Betty, I presented this in hardcover last year, and it was stunning reviews, and sales were great in hardcover, but this new paperback package and cover just really will take this to the next level. It's an epic cinematic tour through medieval Europe that will appeal to readers of Ken Follett and, yes, Game of Thrones. What I love most about Game of Thrones is George Martin's ability to so authentically capture the alternating voices throughout his books. And I think Ben Hopkins just does that same thing. There's even a Ned Stark moment. It's a big book at 500 pages, so a few extra copies goes a long way. Love to see this on your new paperback table or even historical fiction displays. And this is out now. And just a quick heads up on a January title, one of my favorites coming next year. This is Black Cloud Rising from Grove, on sale in January. It's an in-house favorite already, and buyers are responding with display copies. You know, it's hard to believe, but I could not find a Civil War novel written by a Black author featuring a Black soldier protagonist. So that makes it important. What makes it a great book is Filati's authentic voice. I'm hopeful that this has critical success of another Grove Civil War book, Cold Mountain. Great blurbs from Carl Marlantes and Robert Olin Butler, and perfect for Black History Month. Let us know if you need galleys. I think Johanna dipped into this and enjoyed it as well.
I did. I really loved it. It is such a powerful, powerful story. And it goes along nicely, you know, of course, with the Colson Whitehead book, Underground Railroad. It just gives a different perspective to the Civil War story for African Americans. And so I think that wraps up our fiction and poetry. Obviously, we could talk for another 30 minutes about another 15 books. We want to thank you so much for supporting independent publishers. As Betty and John Tewsley said, we do have a backlist offer going through the end of November. It's +3 on any backlist title, and the promo code is TY21. And we've also extended dating on all IPS invoices through the end of October. So that's another 30 days dating for any invoice through the end of October. So stock up now and make sure you have all these great independent books on your independent bookshelves. We're very grateful to you. And until we can do this in person, stay safe and be well. Take care, guys.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.